You don't forget the exact moment the world stopped spinning. Mine was Thursday. Rain. Overhead fluorescence. And the slow click of a pen cap in a doctor's shaking hand. Stage 4. He said it like he was reciting the weather. My name is Lena Vorel. I was 32 years old when a stranger in a white coat told me I had less than a year to live. Ovarian carcinoma. Aggressive. Terminal. I laughed. I actually laughed, that dry, stupid kind of laugh you do when you think someone's joking but they're not. He just stared back with that soft, trained pity I've grown to hate more than death itself. My husband, Braden, wasn't in the room when they told me. He said he had work stuff. Braden always had work stuff. He showed up 2 hours later with coffee and a half-charged phone. I told him. I watched the blood drain from his face for about 5 seconds. Then came the questions. Practical ones. Cold ones. What's the insurance saying? What about freezing eggs? Do we tell your mom now or wait? No, come here. No, we'll get through this. Just logistics. I wanted to scream, but the weight inside me wasn't anger. Not yet. It was cement. Dry, cracking cement where my chest used to be. I started treatment 3 weeks later. Chemo felt like being microwaved from the inside. The hair loss came fast, brutal in the mirror, worse in the drain. Braden stopped touching me. Stopped sleeping in the same bed. He said he couldn't see me like this. But what he meant was, I made him uncomfortable. He married a vibrant marketing exec with a sarcasm problem and a Pinterest-perfect smile. Not this ghost. He still called me babe, but only in front of other people. I tried to cling to dignity. I made lists. Goals. Little things, like finishing my stupid knitting project or organizing the spice rack alphabetically. I needed control. Even if it was over cinnamon and cumin. But the worst part wasn't the dying. It was watching people move on before I was even gone. Friends faded. Texts turned into, so sorry you're going through this, platitudes. I became someone's charity event. A whispered tragedy at brunch. And Braden. Braden started working late. Really late. Then weekends. Then whole nights away. I didn't want to believe it at first. I told myself he was grieving in his own way. Until I found her perfume on his scarf. Her name was Alara Kane. A yoga instructor from his gym. Younger. Glowy. With the kind of fake deep Instagram captions that make you want to punch drywall. He was seeing her. Sleeping with her. While I was withering away on our bathroom floor holding a vomit bucket and trying not to cry too loud. And when I confronted him, he didn't even deny it. She makes me feel alive, he said. I blinked. And something in me snapped. Alive? I was dying and he was chasing alive? I could barely stand up, and this man, the man I once promised forever, was out here soul-searching through someone else's thighs? No apology. No remorse. Just a shrug. And the suggestion that maybe, just maybe, I should move in with my mom. To be more comfortable. More comfortable. Translation. He wanted me gone. Out of his apartment. Out of his life. Out of this world, nice and quiet. I packed a single suitcase. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't even look back. My mother, bless her delusional heart, tried to play peacemaker. He's just scared, Lena. No one knows how to handle this kind of thing. He still loves you, I'm sure. But love doesn't look like abandonment. Love doesn't smell like cheap perfume and half-hearted pity. 2 months later, I stopped treatment. I couldn't take it anymore. Not the pain. Not the weakness. Not the pity. I signed a DNR. Told my mother to cremate me in that black dress she hates. And then I started writing letters, goodbye letters. One for each person who had once mattered. Including Braden. But before I could seal them, something strange happened. A nurse named Silas came in during one of my final checkups. He asked a few routine questions typed into a tablet, then paused. Wait, who diagnosed you? He asked. I told him. He frowned. Hard. Then excused himself and left the room. 10 minutes later, 2 doctors walked in. Another 20 and they were running tests again. Urgently. Quietly. Nervously. By nightfall the truth was out. I wasn't dying. I had been misdiagnosed. An extremely rare autoimmune disease, not cancer. Treatable. Manageable. Not terminal. I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or throw a chair through the window. They told me I'd live. But they didn't know what that really meant. Because the Lena who walked into that clinic 4 months ago? She did die. And the one who walked out? She wasn't scared. She wasn't broken. She wasn't soft. She was something else entirely. Something Brayden would soon regret. I wish I could say I felt joy when they told me I wasn't dying. That I burst into tears and hugged the nurse. But all I felt was rage. Sharp. Pure. Burning. Because while I had been preparing for death, everyone else had already buried me. And now I had to crawl back into the world, not to be celebrated, but to watch the people who left me twist in discomfort that I was still breathing. The cruel part? I wasn't even mad at the doctors. They'd made a mistake, a catastrophic one, but they hadn't looked me in the eye while planning my funeral with their silence. Brayden had. I didn't call him. I didn't post some life-affirming update on Facebook. No big reveal. No Phoenix from the Ashes story. Because this wasn't a comeback. This was a resurrection with a purpose. First thing I did? I changed my number. Then I took everything I had left. A few thousand in savings, one suitcase, and a mind sharpened by betrayal, and disappeared. Moved across the state to a no-name coastal town called Whalen Bay. Rented a room above a closed-down diner. Started cleaning heirlooms under the name L. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't noble. But it was mine. I didn't want anyone to know I was alive. Not until it hurt. Healing wasn't the peaceful journey people romanticize. It was brutal. It was ugly. I'd wake up gasping in the middle of the night, thinking I was still dying. My muscles ached. My skin still felt like paper. My reflection? Unrecognizable. So I made her into someone else. Started running. 3 minutes at first. Then 5. Then 10. By the 3rd month I could outrun my shame. I dyed my hair, chopped it short, dyed it obsidian black. Started training in the back of a boxing gym with a guy named Raiden Cross. An ex-con turned personal trainer who didn't ask questions and didn't flinch at rage. "You've got violence in your eyes," he told me once. "Use it." So I did. Every punch, every squat, every mile. I wasn't training for survival anymore. I was training for war. That's when I found her. Alara Kane. The woman Brayden threw me away for. She ran some holistic wellness retreat now, all white robes, sun salutations, and fake tears on social media. I watched her feed like a predator. Her photos with Brayden. Their vacation to Iceland. Their couple's juice cleanse. They looked happy. Too happy. They were planning a wedding. I found the registry online. They wanted crystal wine glasses and $300 sheets. I nearly snapped my laptop in half. But then something else caught my eye, a comment. From an account named, @LiveTheTruth84. It said, "Funny how Alara never told Brayden about the other guy. LOL. I clicked. No posts. No followers. But the seed had been planted. I started digging. It didn't take long because people always leave breadcrumbs. 2 years ago, Alara was involved in a scandal at her old studio. An affair with a married client. Photos leaked. Lawsuit settled quietly. Guess who the client was? A man named Jordan Halder. Divorced now. Living in Dallas. And still commenting flame emojis under her old posts. So Alara wasn't a soulmate. She was a serial replacement artist. Always slotting herself into someone else's story like she belonged there. Brayden hadn't fallen in love. He'd been recruited. I sat on my bed, bathed in the sickly yellow light of the diner's attic window, and thought, why expose her? Why not let Brayden be miserable with his choice? Because it wasn't enough. I didn't want her gone. I wanted her perfect world to burn. Publicly. Completely. I needed her broken the way I had been. And Brayden? He didn't deserve heartbreak. He deserved humiliation. So I called an old friend. Someone I hadn't spoken to since before the diagnosis. Someone who owed me a favor. Her name was Mallory Vex, a former PR agent turned tabloid blogger. Her specialty? Exposing hypocrites who built empires on lies. I didn't even have to explain. Once I sent her the screenshots, the affair, and a very real hospital document stating my misdiagnosis. She paused, then said, "Lena, this is going to be nuclear." By the end of the week, the headline hit every tabloid and wellness gossip site on the internet. Healing Queen Alara Kane stole cancer patient's husband while preaching self-love. The comment section? Brutal. Alara went private within 12 hours. Brayden deleted his Instagram altogether. The retreat? Cancelled. Her sponsors? Gone. And I I sat back in that greasy attic, bare-legged, drinking cheap whiskey from a chipped mug, smiling for the first time in over a year. But something strange happened that night. At 2:47 a.m. I got a text from an unknown number. You think it's over. But it's not. Alara. I stared at the message for 5 full minutes. You think it's over. But it's not. My fingers trembled, not with fear, but with recognition. Alara didn't care that I ruined her brand. She didn't care that the truth was out. No. She cared that I had come back from the dead stronger than when I left. And she wasn't done playing God. I didn't respond. Not because I was afraid, but because I'd learned something in the last year. Silence is power. Let them think you're plotting. Let them unravel with every tick of the clock, imagining your next move. And yet, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, replaying it all: Brayden's fake sorrow, Alara's snake oil charm, the way everyone disappeared when I got sick. It wasn't just about them anymore. There were others. People I hadn't confronted yet. Like Cassidy, my best friend since we were 12. Maid of honor at my wedding. Godmother to the dog Brayden and I adopted. Cassidy, who couldn't bear to see me suffer, so she vanished after my 3rd hospital visit. Cassidy, who, according to Instagram, had been at Alara's wellness retreat 6 months ago, smiling with a green juice, holding hands with Brayden. No caption. Just a heart. I tracked her down. She was living in Gallo Springs, an hour from Wayland Bay. I didn't call ahead. I just showed up. Her house was clean, curated, soulless. All neutral tones and expensive furniture. The door opened before I even knocked. She froze. Lena, she whispered, like I was some hallucination. Hi, Cass. Her eyes filled with tears, but not the good kind. The guilty kind. The cornered kind. You look. I thought everyone said that I died. I smiled, stepping inside. Yeah, I heard. She tried to hug me. I stepped back. Don't, I said. Not unless you want me to break your ribs. She blinked. I didn't know what to do. It was all so sudden. And you were so angry when you got the diagnosis. And that's why you ghosted me? Because my cancer made you uncomfortable. I was scared. No. You were selfish. I gave her 3 minutes to come clean. She told me everything. That Brayden had cried on her shoulder. That he and Alara hadn't planned it. That it just happened. That she didn't tell me because she didn't want to hurt me more. I looked at her the way you look at mold in your closet. Familiar. Disgusting. And long overdue for removal. I'm not here for your apology, I said. I'm here to tell you something. She swallowed hard. You're going to help me finish this. Finish what? Alara. Brayden. All of it. We're not done. She shook her head. Lena, this is scary. You're not the same. Exactly. I left her with a burner phone and a deadline. Either she helped me, or I'd make sure every brand deal her PR firm ever touched knew what kind of friend she really was. Back in Wayland Bay, I started planning. But something kept nagging at me. Alara's message. She wasn't just threatening me. She knew something. And when I dug deeper, I realized why she was so calm, even as the internet destroyed her brand. She had already moved on. She'd filed paperwork for a new business, a healing retreat for women, in Arizona under a new LLC. Same con, new skin. Brayden wasn't even listed on the filings. She dropped him too. That made things easier. Now I didn't have to choose. Cassidy caved by the next morning. She emailed me a full download of everything she knew: group chats, emails, timelines. It painted a timeline that broke something open in me. Brayden had cheated before Alara. Twice. Once with a coworker. Once with a nurse at the very clinic I was diagnosed in. And guess who introduced them? Cassidy. I stared at the screen, pulse throbbing in my ears. This wasn't betrayal. It was a syndicate. A quiet web of people who had decided I wasn't worth the effort, and then fed off the pieces when I broke. No one stood up for me. No one told me the truth. So I would give them a reckoning so raw they'd never scrub it clean. Brayden, my trainer, noticed my change. You're getting tighter, he said during mitts. Not in the body. In the head. I nodded. I have a target now. He tilted his head. This about your ex? Among others. You know, he said slowly, you don't have to go nuclear. Yes, I do, I whispered. Because they didn't bury me. They cremated me. And now I'm sifting through the ashes for bones. He didn't say anything else. But the next day he handed me a USB stick. What's this? I asked. He shrugged. You train at my gym. I watch out for my own. There's a guy. Ex-cop. Works digital forensics now. Owes me a favor. Pulled everything public and private on Braden and Alara. I blinked. What's on it? Everything you need. And one thing you don't expect. That night, I plugged in the USB. The folder was simple. /cane files/. Inside, hundreds of images, screenshots, documents. Braden's private Venmo transactions. Alara's deleted text messages. Hotel receipts, timestamped to days when Braden told me he was working late. But at the very bottom of the folder, there was a single video file. No name. No description. I clicked. It started with a shaky camera, a man's voice whispering. And then it showed something I wasn't prepared for. Me. In a hospital gown. Pale. Crying. But I wasn't alone. Braden was standing next to me, holding my hand. And then he looked directly at the camera. And winked. I didn't breathe. Not while the video played. Not while Braden smirked into the hidden lens. Not while I watched myself, gaunt and drugged, sobbing through another misdiagnosis, one that Alara personally vouched for. The timestamp on the clip? 2 days before he filed our divorce papers. He recorded me at my weakest. And winked. Because he knew he'd already won. They didn't just let me break. They designed it. I played the clip 7 times. First in shock. Then in rage. Then with purpose. Because that wink? It wasn't a fluke. It was a signal, one of many. Hidden cameras. Coordinated cover-ups. Even my medical file wasn't safe. The USB had more. So much more. There were doctored scans submitted to the insurance company. Ones that made it look like my condition was terminal months earlier than it actually was. And guess who signed off on them? Dr. Penmore. The same smug oncologist who regretted to inform me about the spread. The same one who refused a second opinion when I begged. I had no idea how far it went. But now I knew the truth. They didn't just abandon me. They tried to erase me. They wanted the sympathy. They wanted the money. They wanted the freedom to move on guilt-free. So they did what predators do, They faked concern. And sold my illness like a storybook ending. I was the tragedy they cashed in on. The good ex-wife who fought bravely and faded away. The pretty corpse who made Alara's brand more authentic. And the worst part? The world believed it. People donated to Alara's Cancer Wellness Fund. Braden ran a grief podcast. Cassidy wrote a think piece about losing your soul sister before her time. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was nuclear. So I did what they never expected. I went public. Not as Lena. As the girl who didn't die. A new burner account. No name, no face, just a voice. I uploaded the video of Braden winking. Then a thread. Then more evidence. Every file Braden's contact had pulled. At first, people thought it was AI. A hoax. A sick revenge fantasy. Until someone, probably Cassidy, leaked just enough of the real names. Within hours, the internet started piecing it together. The retreat. The doctor. The fundraiser money trail. And when a whistleblower nurse posted about the missing biopsy slides, it all exploded. I stayed quiet. Let the chaos feed itself. The only person I messaged directly was Alara. One sentence. Your candles can't burn through what's coming. She replied in 3 minutes. I didn't touch your file. You were already sick. I laughed. Then why did you lie about the herbal reversal plan? Why tell Braden to cancel my follow-ups? No answer. I waited. An hour later, her Instagram went dark. Then her YouTube. Then her entire company site vanished. She was running. But I wasn't chasing her. Not yet. I had someone else to finish with first. Dr. Penmore. I requested an appointment under a fake name. Wore a wig. Changed my voice. Said I had a family history of lymphoma and needed a consult. They booked me in 2 weeks. I didn't wait. I showed up the next day with every fake scan, every altered lab, and one hell of a poker face. The receptionist told me he wasn't in. But I saw him. Through the office glass, packing a briefcase like the walls were closing in. He spotted me. And froze. Penmore, I said, stepping inside. You remember me? He blinked. You shouldn't be here. Why? Because you lied? Because you got paid to keep me quiet? He stammered. I didn't. You signed off on my scans. You told my family I had 6 months. You never even scheduled the pet follow-up. He backed toward his desk. You don't understand. Braden said it was palliative. That there was no hope. You never confirmed that. I was told not to. By who? He hesitated. And I saw it. Guilt. But not the kind you can trust. The kind that hides more rot underneath. I leaned in close. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to give me every document you ever signed with Braden Kane or Lara Rowe. Every email. Every payment log. Or I swear to God, I will walk into the local press with this entire file and name you as the man who falsified a terminal diagnosis to get rid of a woman who trusted you. His face crumpled. I walked out with a flash drive, a printed log of off-the-books consultations, and a phone number. That night, I burned the wig. Cut my hair. For the first time in 2 years, I looked in the mirror and saw someone alive. Not lucky. Not grateful. Relentless. Cassidy texted me again. You've made your point. This is going too far. I replied with one word. Run. But there was one thing still missing. Something I had buried for too long. The truth about my cancer. I went back to the specialist, the one Alara didn't want me to see. I handed over every file, every falsified scan. I asked for a fresh start. They ran new tests. Blood work. Imaging. Everything clean from scratch. 3 days later, I sat in a silent room while a real doctor, one not bought, not bullied, walked in with my results. She looked confused. Miss Thorne, you never had stage 4. I stared. What? Your past scans were manipulated. The original biopsy was misread or altered. I don't know who told you your prognosis, but based on this, your cancer never progressed beyond stage I. I didn't move. Stage I. Curable. Treatable. Survivable. My entire collapse, the loss of my marriage, my career, my sanity was based on a lie. I walked out of the clinic shaking. Not from illness. From knowing that every inch of my pain had been manufactured. They hadn't just betrayed me. They'd sentenced me. And now? Now I wasn't just alive. I was armed. You know that feeling? When your ears ring and your chest is too still and the whole world stretches like film melting off a reel. That was me. Sitting alone in my kitchen. Staring at that clean bill of health, knowing that 2 years of hell were scripted by people I once loved. Not fate. Not bad luck. Just betrayal. I wasn't the girl who survived cancer. I was the woman they tried to bury alive on purpose. And now I had proof. I didn't scream. Didn't cry. I smiled. Because finally, I knew what I was fighting. Not a disease. A network of liars who profited from my disappearance. And now I was going to make every single one of them disappear in return. Braden Kane, my ex-husband, had a podcast titled Man of Grief. Each episode opened with a quote from Hemingway or Bukowski. He'd cry about watching a woman you love fade, and use that pain to pitch his upcoming memoir. But today's episode wouldn't air. Because I hijacked his platform. Braden helped me breach the server. It took 3 calls, a throwaway laptop, and a not-so-legal DNS redirect. But by the time Braden logged in to record, it was already live. My voice. My story. 10 minutes of uncut rage. I told the world how Braden hired a private editor to forge my medical updates. How Alara staged social media check-ins while I was sedated in a clinic she paid to misdiagnose me. How Cassidy sold exclusive deathbed rights to a publisher a full year before I was supposed to die. I gave names. Receipts. Dates. I dropped the recording of Dr. Pinmore admitting to his part. And I ended with this. You want a cancer story? Fine. Here's one. I was told I had months to live. I planned my death down to the music that would play at my funeral. But turns out, what was killing me wasn't in my blood. It was in my house. My bed. My so-called family. You think you buried me? I was just waiting for the dirt to settle. The fallout was volcanic. Braden's sponsors dropped him within hours. Cassidy's publisher canceled her upcoming release. And Alara? Oh, she ran to Bali for a spiritual reset, but not before the IRS and 2 major news networks started sniffing around her finances. Turns out defrauding donors with fake cancer retreats doesn't go over well in court. Especially when your ex-patient is still very much alive. But none of that was enough. Not for me. Because revenge isn't public. It's personal. So I flew to New York. Booked a ticket to Alara's last speaking event, a pre-booked panel she couldn't cancel without penalty. She walked on stage in white linen, all chakras and crystal energy. I sat in the front row. Waited. Let her finish her speech about healing the soul from grief and trauma. Then I stood. and said just 2 words into the stunned silence. You lied. She saw me, stumbled, actually dropped her microphone. I stepped closer. You told the world I died. A security guard moved toward me. I held up my phone. Press play. Braden's wink. Penmore's confession. Ilara's own voice. She won't make it past November. It's kinder this way. The room fell dead quiet. Cameras turned. Phones lit up. And Ilara Rowe finally broke. She didn't say a word. Just ran. She didn't even make it to the exit. Because the police were already outside. She'd fled the country on false tax documents. And thanks to my file dump, every dime she raised off my slow death was now traceable. But I didn't stay to watch her get cuffed. That wasn't for me. That was for the thousands of people watching online. For every person who had been gaslit into thinking their pain was imaginary. For every survivor who got silenced because someone else needed their story more than they did. I disappeared again. Not out of fear. Out of freedom. I moved. Changed my name this time on my own terms. Got new test results every 3 months. All clean. But the scars? They're mine to keep. Not the medical ones. The ones left by people who were supposed to love me. I work now at a center for medical fraud victims. I don't tell them my story. They don't need it. They just need someone who believes them when nobody else will. Someone who won't flinch when the scans don't match. When the math doesn't add up. When the person in the white coat starts calling them crazy. They just need someone who knows. Braden tried to reach out once. He emailed a 2-sentence apology. I was scared. She said you were going to die anyway. I didn't respond. But I did forward it to every lawyer involved in his class action suit. Let him rot in his fear. I'm not a phoenix. I didn't rise from ashes. I was the fire. They lit me. They thought I'd flicker then fade. But they forgot something important. I don't burn out. I burn through.